things that were clearly drafted in October, a month before this happened. Welcome back to Wine and Chill, your home for all things legal shenanigans. If you're new here, I'm Stephanie, your friendly neighborhood lawyer, here to talk to you today about Trump versus the election. Specifically, we're going to discuss Michigan. For those of you in the United States, we are currently going through our longer than usual election process, which is currently taking place. No introduction needed as to what we're talking about. In the US, we're currently going through our 2020 election process, which has caused Trump to file not one, but 3 separate lawsuits as of today in Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. We're going to start mild and get to spicy, and today we are going to start with Michigan. By watching this video, you understand and consent that you have read the full legal disclaimer down below in the description. While I am a licensed practicing attorney, I am not your attorney, and this video should not constitute legal advice. This video is for entertainment purposes only. In keeping with full transparency, as always, I will be impartial and just solely discuss the validity of this lawsuit. And for full transparency, I am not a Trump supporter. However, as an attorney, I do try to remain impartial at all times when discussing the law. So let's get into the validity of this lawsuit. This lawsuit was filed on November the 4th, and today is currently November the 6th. Just for context as to where we are in terms of timeline. So we are going to hop straight into it. And as usual, I will have the document here on the screen so you can read along, and I'll have the multiple documents in the description box. So if you'd like to follow along as well, there are specific references to the Michigan State Constitution. So I'm going to link those down below as well so you can read them. All this information is free online, and you should read it. Everyone should have access to the same set of facts. All right, so who is Trump specifically suing? That's important. And for the majority of the lawsuits we're going to go over, so currently right now there's Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, which we'll get to. I'm going to do each state in a separate video so that way you can get full context. Currently in all the lawsuits, I believe he is suing the Secretary of State of that specific state. So the reason being, the Secretary of State is charged with, among other things, making sure elections are fair and impartial. So when you sue somebody, you can sue a government worker in their capacity of their job. So she's not going to be sued for her personal liabilities. She's just being sued for whether or not she's doing her job correctly. So that is the proper person to sue. Okay, so with that being said, who is suing who? So Donald J. Trump for President Inc. and Eric Ostergren versus Jocelyn Benson in her official capacity as Secretary of State. When you run an election, so you're probably wondering why is a corporation listed versus Donald Trump himself. When you're running an election, you generally incorporate for your campaign. So his campaign is suing. And then Eric Ostergren, we're going to get to who that is, to sue in a state for any type of election fraud, election tampering, anything to do with issue of an election, you need to have someone who is a registered resident of that state. So Eric Ostergren, or hopefully I'm saying his name right, Eric Ostergren is the registered resident for Michigan. So that's why he's also listed. So when you start, they're going to list out the parties. So the plaintiffs are, again, Donald J. Trump for President Inc. and Eric Ostergren. So every number is a paragraph. So paragraph 2 on page 1, Eric Ostergren is a registered voter of Roscommon County, Michigan, and credentialed and trained as an election challenger. Eric Ostergren was excluded from the counting board during the absent voter ballot review process. So that's the claim. So they're saying, like, this is who I am. I'm a registered voter from this place, so you have to prove validity. So they're proving that there, and then he's claiming that he was excluded from the counting board. So we'll see if that's true. We're going to get into that. So paragraph 3 is going into Jocelyn Benson, who's Michigan's current Secretary of State and the Chief Election Officer, end quote. The Chief Elections Officer, that's not a real title. That's why it's in quotes. There are a lot of, I'm just going to be honest, there are a lot of very random, like, air quotes in this document. So page 3, we're going to get into the background, specifically what this claim is about. Okay, so paragraph 9 on page 3, what is this claim specifically about? Paragraph 9, a general election is being held in the state of Michigan on November 3rd. Yes, we know this, 2022. Paragraph 10, MCL 168.765A, regarding absent voter counting boards where absentee votes are processed and counted, states in relevant part as follows. It's going to then state the part of the statute. And then paragraph 11, and I'm not going to read it for a specific reason because we're going to get into it. Paragraph 11, Michigan absent voter counting boards are not complying with the statute. These boards are being conducted without inspectors from each party being present. Okay, so this entire lawsuit that he filed is specifically about absentee ballots, mail-in ballots. For full context, which I think are pretty much all aware, mail-in ballots is nothing new. What they're quoting here in the lawsuit, MCL 168.765A, that's the Michigan constitutional law. I'll link it down below as well because we're going to read from it. That's been in effect since 1963. This is nothing new. What's going on is nothing new. We've been doing mail-in ballots for decades. However, the amount of mail-in ballots is specifically new. The volume of mail-in ballots is new and specific to this election. Due to the global pandemic and social distancing and safety rules, we are seeing a higher number of mail-in ballots. The concept of mail-in ballots has never been new. It has never been challenged. However, there have always been laws in place to make sure that there is no voter fraud. So just in case you were wondering whether or not, whatever side drew up random new laws, no, these laws have been there. Okay, cool. So let's get to paragraph 10 that I skipped over and said I would come back to. So regarding absent voter counting boards where absentee votes are processed and counted, states in relevant part as follows. States in relevant part as follows. Basically, they're telling you from that states in relevant part that they have cut out the section that they feel is relevant. That's not how the law works. Let's read the section. At all times, at least one election inspector from each major political party must be present at the absent voter counting place, and the policies and procedures adopted by the Secretary of State regarding the counting of absent voter ballots must be followed. Okay, yeah, that sounds right. Where's the rest of it? It then reads this following sentence, which is redacted and removed from the relevant part. A person who causes the polls to be closed or who discloses an election result or in any manner characterizes how any ballot being counted has been voted in a voting precinct before the time the polls can be legally closed on election day is guilty of a felony. Remember that. We'll get back there. Paragraph 11 and paragraph 12 then should have said, hey, we're alleging that, we're allowed one election inspector. We weren't given the election inspector. Our election inspector wasn't allowed to be there. All it says is in paragraph 11, Michigan absent voter counting boards are not complying with the statute. Okay, that's an assertion. These boards are being conducted without inspectors from each party being present. Another assertion. Where's the facts? Paragraph 12, further, a political party, incorporated organization, or organized committee of interested citizens may design one challenger to serve each counting board. It then goes on in paragraph 13 and 14 to just copy and paste parts of the Michigan law. As we are sitting here and we're going to continue, where the facts should have been, they are not. You need the supporting facts. If I tell you somebody robbed me, you're going to say, oh, what did they look like? What were they wearing? What did they take from me? If I just keep saying somebody robbed me. Well, where's the facts? Where's the facts, Stephanie? There are no facts there. They're just assertions that basically are copying the language needed in the statute to say, well, this has been violated. Violated how? You have to prove things. That's the whole reason for being allowed to make lawsuits. You're supposed to be persuasive. You're supposed to say XYZ happened so that way the court and the judge can, have all the facts at hand. If you just make random assertions without any facts, we all learned what that means in kindergarten. It's called lying. You guys have the documents. You can go and search where the facts are. I read it a couple times. They ain't in there. All right, so now we're going to go to paragraph 16 because remember, this specific lawsuit in Michigan is all about absentee votes. So paragraph 16, local election jurisdictions locate ballot drop-off boxes without opportunity for challengers to observe the process, and as such, Secretary Benson violates her constitutional and statutory authority and damages the integrity of Michigan elections. On top of the second structure of that sentence just being very annoying, and poorly drafted, that, again, local election jurisdictions locate ballot drop-off boxes without opportunities for a challenger to observe the process. There's a drop-off box, as there has always been, for mail-in votes. You can send them in the mail. The post office is currently being defunded and has issues, so a lot of people have decided, okay, I'll drop it off at my designated ballot box. If you put it in the box, what were the challengers going to do? Did they want to come to your house, walk with you to the ballot box, make sure that you dropped it in? Assertions without facts are just lies. This doesn't make any sense. For full context, for anyone that maybe voted in person and has never utilized the mail-in voting system, mail-in votes, the way they work is you have to request them. You cannot just go online with no form of identification, just request mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots are only sent to your house. Your signature has to match. So how the fraud is going to occur is very unlikely. Mail-in ballots aren't just, oh, I wrote my name on a piece of paper and I, Stephanie, voted for Joe Biden and put it in the ballot box. No, I sign up for a mail-in ballot, however the procedures are for that specific state. Sign up for the mail-in ballot. They mail you a specific mail-in ballot. It has your name. It's already linked specifically to you. I can't just photocopy it. It doesn't work like that. And then you put it in the ballot box or you mail it in. They're only sending one mail-in ballot to one requested registered voter. I'm not particularly sure what they wanted the challengers to do. If they just wanted to come to people's house, knock on their door, scare the shit out of them, look and make sure the mail-in ballot was correct, then hold their hand and then walk to the mail-in ballot drop-off. I'm confused. So now we are going to go to paragraph 17. Okay, so paragraph 17 is going to bring up the Michigan constitutional law, the Michigan Constitution again, and then we're going to read through the Michigan Constitution because this is an assertion. Paragraph 17, Michigan law requires that ballot containers be monitored by video surveillance. See Senate Bill 757 at 761 4C. Okay. All right, that sounds about right. Paragraph 18, Secretary Benson is violating, so that's the assertion. It says the law requires that you have to monitor the ballot boxes. Okay, so where did the impropriety happen? Allegedly. Paragraph 18, Secretary Benson is violating the Michigan Constitution and Michigan election law by allowing absent voter ballots to be processed and counted without allowing challengers to observe the video of the ballot boxes into which these ballots are placed. So, let's see if the Michigan state law says that you have to observe the ballot boxes. Again, now they're saying, okay, no, we don't want to hold your hand at your house. We just want to watch the videos. Okay, let's see. So if you go to the Michigan law, which I'm going to put right here, the Michigan Constitution, to that part of the bill, which I'm putting right here, if an absent voter ballot drop box is located outdoors, these are very specific rules, all of the following apply. Outdoors, so if these are inside, none of this applies, first of all. A, the drop box must be securely locked and bolted to the ground or to any other stationary object. Of course, they don't want people picking it up. B, the drop box must be equipped with a single slot or mailbox style lever to allow absent voter ballot return envelopes to be placed in the drop box, and all other openings on the drop box must be securely locked. Okay, so make sure, trying to avoid voter fraud, so you can't take it back out. It's a tiny little slit, put it in, it's done. C, the city or township clerk must use video monitoring of that drop box to ensure effective monitoring of that drop box. D, the drop box must be in public, well-lit area with good visibility. Okay. The city or township clerk, now we're on E, township clerk must immediately report to local law enforcement any vandalism involving the drop box or any suspicious activity occurring in the immediate vicinity of the drop box. Okay. See something, say something. And that's it. Nowhere in that bill or that law did it say that a challenger has to be allowed to watch the videos. That's not their job. There's someone who's paid, the city or township clerk is paid to watch those videos. It's their job to uphold that the election is fair, regardless of their party, and the city or township clerk is supposed to tell the police if they see something wrong, not the challenger. There's no violation of this law. because that's not what the law says. You can write any type of foolishness in court documents, to be quite frank, that doesn't make it correct. Especially when you are referencing something that's easily referenced and you're only referencing D4C. That's it. That one part when there's D4A through D, which say something completely different. Cherry picking parts of the law that you want to use to make your argument does not make your argument correct. Cherry picking parts of the law to make yourself look like you are saying something legally valid is morally wrong and also legally reprehensible. All right, so now we're going to go down to paragraph 25. And I'm skipping around because basically the rest of those paragraphs, you can read them, are saying, hey, you didn't allow us to see the video, which we have just assessed. Under Michigan state law, they don't need to allow them to see the video. They hired a human being who's competent at their job, who's probably happy at their job, and is doing their job. It's not for some random person to say, no, I'm the law, I want to see it. That's not how this works. Either you think the law is wrong, and then you rightfully challenge the law and say the law is wrong, and try to morally fix it, or you think the law is right and you follow the law. You cannot cherry pick the law that suits you. You cannot cherry pick subsections of the law that suit your argument, but are legally in totality incorrect. On to paragraph 25. So now we're into count 2. So count 2, Secretary Benson, Oakland County violated Michigan voters' rights under the Michigan Constitution Purity of Elections Clause. We're going to specifically get into this. There is no Purity of Elections Clause. That's why it's in quotes, because they just like to put in quotes things. Y'all pray for this attorney, because there's so many things in this document that are just factually inaccurate that I'm just a bit surprised. Like, you knew people were going to see this. Don't you have any shame? So paragraph 25, the phrase, they love the quotes, purity of elections. Do y'all hear what's outside? Well, welcome to New York, noise. The phrase purity of elections does not have a single precise meaning, but it unmistakably requires fairness and even-handedness in the election laws of the state. Borough v. Detroit Election Commission. So that's a specific, that's a case law citation. Which, my issue is not with the case law citation. However, this purity of elections I thought was very interesting. So, of course, being the factually accurate human being that I aspire to be at all times, when I looked for the purity of elections clause, well, friends, it does not exist because that is not the friggin' name of the clause. If you go into the Michigan State Constitution, so this is Article 2, Section 4, this is not a clause. This is not named Purity of Elections Clause. Do you see? You're looking at the same document I'm looking at. Definitely doesn't say Purity of Elections Clause. Factual accuracy is important. You cannot just make things up. That's not how the law works. And to be honest, I'm only highlighting it because it irked my nerve. I don't like when people just lie for no reason. You should never lie. Don't lie. Lying is bad. We all know this. However, you definitely shouldn't lie on something that people can easily pull up receipts. You look stupid and you blow all of your credibility. The minute you lie, you just blow your credibility out of the window. So now that we have established there's no Purity of Elections Clause, I'm just curious as to where they even got this language from. So we can read through number 4 of the subsection, except as otherwise provided in the Constitution or in the Constitution of the laws or in the Constitution or laws of the United States legislature shall enact laws to regulate the time, place, and manner of all nominations and elections, to preserve the purity of elections, to preserve the secrecy of the ballot, to guard against abuses of the elective franchise, and to provide for a system of voter registration and absentee voting. Absentee voting is nothing new, people. Mail-in ballots are nothing new. If you get anything else from this, I really hope everyone understands that this is not a new phenomenon that is occurring. Both parties, Republican and Democrat, have never challenged the validity of mail-in voting, absentee ballots, because it is fair, it does work, it is useful. You cannot challenge things when things are just because things aren't going your way. That's not how That's not how our constitution is drafted. That's not how the Michigan State Constitution is drafted. You can't say there's a purity of elections clause when it's really buried in the bottom of a subsection at the bottom of an article. Being impartial, keeping my opinions to myself. Factually, this is wholly inaccurate. It makes no sense. Now we're to page 10, which is prayer for relief on page 10, which is basically prayer for relief is what do I want? What does Trump and Ostergren want from this? All right, cool. So in the prayer for relief, they're asking for order a speedy hearing of this action and advance it on the calendar. So listen, the abuse of quotations in this is just wild. Like, this is not how you quote things. This is like legal research and writing 101. Oof. Mandate that Secretary Benson order all counting and processing of absentee votes to cease immediately until an election inspector from each party is present at each absent voter counting board and until video is made available to challengers of each ballot box. Remember when I said, don't forget the part that they left out, which was in the beginning when they only wanted to have the first sentence for paragraph 10, page 3, when it said at all times at least one election inspector from each major political party must be present at the absent voter counting place, etc., etc., and that was the only sentence. And the second sentence said a person who causes the polls to be closed or who discloses an election result or in any manner characterizes how any ballot being counted has been voted in a voting precinct before the time the polls can legally be closed on election day is guilty of a felony. The reason why they didn't file this on the 3rd, because that language specifically says on election day. Asking to stop counting votes seems very akin to asking the polls to be closed. It's essentially and in practical nature the same thing, and according to the Michigan Constitution, causing such election disruption is a felony. Page 11. This to me, I'm going to say this and say this plain. Do not ever sign your name to things that you do not read. Case in point, Mr. Eric Ostergren, who, because this drafting is so poor, his name in the verification has been changed to I, Eric Ostergren Being, because somebody forgot a space. Child, I don't know who drafted this. Because I'm going to be impartial and not in my full petty boots, I'm not going to go zoom in to the attorney that drafted this, but y'all have the document down there. Y'all can look at it. When you're rushing to do the wrong thing, mistakes happen. I, Eric Ostergren, space, being first duly sworn, depose and say that I'm a resident of the state of Michigan and duly qualified as a voter in this state. Okay, asserting that he has the right to file the complaint. Here comes the problem. While I may not have personal knowledge of all the facts recited in this complaint, the information contained therein has been collected and made available to me by others, and I declare, pursuant to MCR 2.114B2, that the allegations contained in this complaint are true to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief. Eric, honey, don't sign your name to hearsay. You don't have personal knowledge, but somebody told you it's the truth. What if they're wrong? And there are no facts in here. Nowhere did it say, yes, at this time, at this day, I was not allowed to do XYZ that the Michigan Constitution granted me. No. Instead, this complaint said, I was not allowed to watch videos. The Michigan Constitution doesn't allow anybody to watch videos. It did not say that you had the right to watch any videos. People, please, do not sign your name to things that you did not read. To add insult to poor Mr. Eric Ostergren's injury, subscribed and sworn to before me this 4th day of October 2020, crossed out to then say November. What did signing things that you haven't read, things that were clearly drafted in October, a month before this happened, or the person drafting it has no idea what month they're in. I mean, we are in a pandemic. People are stressed. Which is it? Purposeful fraud, or it's just an accident? I mean, this whole complaint is full of lots of accidents. So to the voters of Michigan, if you were confused, maybe something fraudulent or some malfeasance has occurred, I hope that this has put you at ease, because this shoddy work should tell you what you should have already known deep down in your spirit, that everything is just fine. Your vote counted. All of the legal votes counted. There is no foul play. Not even this shoddy lawsuit could even prove that anything wrong happened, as the citations are off, the references to the laws that don't exist are off. Hell, the even date is off. Which begs the question, what day was this really drafted? I'm mildly curious. I'd ask Eric, but honey, he clearly does not know. Let me know in the comments. I figured we would do each state, starting with Michigan. The Michigan court has declined all of this. They clearly counted all of the votes. They have decided. It has been called as of today, the 6th, for Joe Biden, because there is nothing plausible in here to contest. If there are plausible facts, then yeah, we can have a conversation, but there are no facts in this case. There's just misstatements of law. So for the next one, I figured we'd move on to Pennsylvania, as Pennsylvania is highly contested. That actually went to a court. This Michigan lawsuit, in my honest, non-shady opinion, is a waste of Michigan taxpayer dollars. All right, y'all. As usual, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. So let me know in the comments if you'd like to see Pennsylvania next.